At 81, Tom Selleck is not a figure of tragedy or hidden shock, but rather an example of a long, steady career evolving into a quieter, more private chapter of life after decades in the public eye, and much of the emotional framing around his current age comes more from fan nostalgia than from any real-life crisis, because Selleck has largely stepped back from the intense Hollywood spotlight, while continuing to live a stable and grounded life centered on family and selective work commitments, especially after becoming widely known for his iconic role as Thomas Magnum in Magnum, P.I., which turned him into one of television's most recognizable leading men in the 1980s, defined by his signature mustache, calm charisma, and laid-back confidence that made him a cultural figure beyond just acting. And later he successfully transitioned into another long-running and highly respected role as Frank Reagan on Blue Bloods, a series that further cemented his reputation as a consistent, reliable presence on television rather than a fading star. As he has aged, what has changed most is not a dramatic fall or hidden hardship, but rather the natural slowing of a career that has already spanned more than 5 decades, during which he balanced acting with producing, occasional film roles, and personal investments in a quieter lifestyle, including time spent away from Hollywood on his ranch in California, where he has often spoken about preferring simplicity, privacy, and outdoor work over constant public attention, which is a stark contrast to the fast-paced entertainment industry that defined his earlier years. Physically, like many actors in their 80s, he has naturally reduced his workload, and while he has acknowledged the normal effects of aging, such as choosing roles more carefully and avoiding overly demanding schedules, there's been no public indication of any devastating illness or hidden crisis, despite the kind of exaggerated online narratives that often surround well-known figures of his generation. Instead, Selleck's later life is better understood as a gradual transition into semi-retirement, where he continues to work when the right projects come along but no longer carries the pressure of being a constant Hollywood lead. And this shift has allowed him to focus more on personal relationships, particularly his long marriage to Julie Mack and his role as a father, which he has often described as more important than fame or professional recognition. In interviews over the years, he has expressed a strong preference for privacy and normalcy, often resisting the celebrity culture that surrounds many of his peers, and this attitude has helped him maintain a relatively low-profile public image compared to the height of his fame, which sometimes leads audiences to assume something dramatic must have happened simply because he is no longer constantly in the media, even though the reality is far more ordinary and peaceful. His career legacy, however, remains highly influential, as he is still remembered as one of television's defining leading men, and Blue Bloods kept him relevant to newer generations who may not have watched Magnum, P.I. during its original run, allowing his work to bridge multiple eras of television history. At 81, rather than a story of loss or heartbreak, Tom Selleck's life reflects longevity, consistency, and a successful shift from fame-driven identity to a more private and self-directed existence, showing that stepping away from constant visibility is not necessarily a sign of decline but often a conscious choice to prioritize health, peace, and personal fulfillment after achieving long-term professional success. And while fans may feel emotional seeing beloved stars age, his story at this stage is less about something sad happening and more about the natural, dignified progression of a life well lived in and beyond Hollywood.